Information is everywhere, and often the information we see is coming at us fast. When we scroll through our Twitter feed or see a Snapchat post, we often don't take the time to determine if the information is true or not before moving on to the next post. So why should we take the time to do that, and how can we determine if the information we are consuming is good? The peach dress. Let's start with an example where the characters have some clear ways to check information. For the purposes of the story, the friends involved are Peyton, Quinn, and Riley. In the first text exchange, Quinn asks Riley if she has seen her homecoming dress. Riley deflects and blames Peyton for taking the dress. Peyton relates there is no way she could have taken the dress and additionally provides evidence that something else might be at play. Quinn uses the evidence to confront Riley, and she eventually confesses. This is a small incident that doesn't really affect others outside of the circle of friends, and most of you have probably experienced an incident where you carefully analyzed a conversation, be it in person, on text, or social media. Honestly, some of the skills you use to decide who is being truthful on a personal level are some of the same tools to apply to other information as well. If you would take the time to make sure you get the truth in a conflict with a friend, why wouldn't you take the time to make sure that article you are using for an assignment is valid, or that article you are about to share on social media is actually accurate? Here are some tips for figuring out if information is reliable and relevant to what you are looking for. According to the ISAIL standards for Illinois school libraries, there are 5 major criteria to assess sources through. We will be looking at objectivity, authority, relevance, suitability, and currency. While your questions might vary somewhat depending on your purpose for doing the research, there are some basic considerations to keep in mind. Common Sense Media has a great website evaluation tool that can also help. Objectivity refers to how balanced the article is. This will vary depending on the purpose of the article or video or whatever media it is. First, be aware of bias present. Bias refers to the slant an article takes on a subject. For example, if a new bridge is being built in a community and there is an article in the paper that discusses the project from the viewpoints of people who want the bridge and people who don't, then the article should be fair to both sides of that debate. If the article is an opinion piece on one side, that should be clearly indicated at the beginning. With those thoughts in mind, there are some questions to use on a source. Who is this content made for? Is this fact or opinion? Is there bias? Is any special interest disclosed? Depending on your project or the reason you're sharing something, you need to weigh the objectivity of the writer against the purpose. Be very skeptical of anyone that is selling a product and claiming they have no bias or special interest in the transaction. Also be wary of people using extreme language. For instance, in the bridge example, a fair headline would be New Bridge Project Proposed. A headline that uses extreme language would sound like this: New bridge is a terrible scam that will damage our community beyond repair. This goes for graphics as well. If they are in a color scheme that appears to be threatening versus something that's more neutral or calm, that can also be a way of indicating bias. Authority refers to the author of the material and looks at their credentials. Credentials are what qualify someone to write an article or create any media on a topic. For instance, it could be an investigative journalist who has interviewed a wide range of experts on a topic, or someone that is an expert on a topic might have written the information. Remember, though, that the area of knowledge should relate to the topic at hand. For instance, someone who has conducted a great deal of research in volcanoes and has published peer-reviewed articles in that field might not be an expert in hummingbirds. There are some basic questions to consider on this topic. Who wrote this? Do they cite sources? Are there errors? Are the author's credentials relevant? Relevance. This source characteristic refers to how well the source fits with what you are trying to accomplish. Doing research, most of us have accidentally started to read information that doesn't really suit our purpose. For instance, if you have an assignment to make a short video about the Vietnam War Memorial and its effects on visitors, you could read about the creation of the memorial, read personal accounts of people that visited and what it meant to them, or interview a veteran who has visited the memorial. Interviewing someone who has never been to the memorial would not fit the parameters of the assignment. Checking for relevance. Make sure you are finding the best resources for your purpose. ask yourself the following questions as a starting point. Does the source meet your needs? Is it the best in a variety of sources? Does it best fit your research needs? We have all encountered an article or a source that is close to what we need but not quite right. Instead of trying to make it fit, look for the best source for the task. Suitability is related to relevance and deals with how well your information meets your needs. It also asks you to evaluate the information based on design and content level. Does the design help the understanding? Are the links clearly labeled? Can you understand the text? For instance, if you find an amazing article about a recent experiment on an element of photosynthesis for your biology project, but you only understood every third word because it was written at an extremely advanced level, that source doesn't suit your purpose. On the other hand, if you find a website written by a third grade class on what a plant is, that information is too simple for your high school project, and it doesn't suit your purpose either. This is the Goldilocks and the Three Bears aspect of information. You need something that is just right for what you are doing. Currency. Even the best seeming article will not help you if it is out of date. If it is a topic that is constantly changing, an article that is a month old might be too old. Because different topics often have different expectations, it is also good to check with your teacher if the research is for an assignment. For example, if you are looking up information about a movie that is coming out in the near future, you want the most recent reliable information you can find, as sometimes production dates and release dates change. Checking the date is always important. Look at the following questions when you examine a source. When was the information written? Has the information been revised? Is the site current? Finally, consider this example. One night you are scrolling through your Twitter feed and you see an interesting item. You check through everything you have to verify is true, because either you are disgusted or thrilled. Okay, so is the source objective? Well, it is selling something, so they might be hyping something that isn't great, and there's a commercial aspect. Is there authority behind the information? You can see that it is the official Twitter account for the restaurant. In this case, both relevance and suitability depend on your thoughts on the topic. Maybe you will protest this new offering or be the first in line to try it out. So far, this looks legitimate. Then you look at the currency of the item and realize it has been posted on April 1st. Companies often post joke news on April Fool's Day, so you decide not to tweet about it, and you are proven right when the company tweets out the truth later that same day. Remember, just like Quinn did in the peach dress story, or like you did with the restaurant tweet, it is important to think through sources before sharing them or using them in your schoolwork. If you find a source that might be too good to be true, do some detective work and check it out. Read around the website, go to the About section and see who is behind the information, and check through the 5 criteria we discussed: objectivity, authority, relevance, suitability, and currency. If you see a lot of red flags or signs that the information might not be accurate, check in other sources before you share or use it for homework. Taking extra time on your quest for good information will help you travel down the information road safely with fewer pitfalls along the way.